Hey guys, welcome back. Today is another story, so to speak. I'm going to tell you about my history with mental health. According to the doctors, the depression could have come after my mom died. But the bipolar ran in our family, so that could have sprouted up at any time. They said when you were in high school, you had distractions. Your friends, school, being a normal teenager. But when you went to college and you were away from everything you knew, that's when it could have started to grow, because there were times in college where, well, the first year I kind of fought through and it didn't really affect me much because I was still in a school routine. I got a 3.8 my first semester. That first year. No, it was first semester I got a 3.8. Second semester I went down, and that's when they started to worry. So, second semester was when I started, of course, in all honesty, it was an 8 a.m. class and a 9 a.m. class that they thought, oh, a freshman would love to take. Seriously? But I got through them, and then I went down from a 3.8 to a 2.9. And that's when they put me on academic probation and started to hover, so to speak. And then when I got back for my third second year of college, I'd probably screwing a lot of this up. But my maybe it was semester of my second year, I went to go see my advisor, and I was never good with crowds, so I made a joke, and, they took it way out of proportion, and on top of the requirements to academic probation, they made me go see the counseling center once a week. And I was like, okay. And that's where they officially... So I was then diagnosed. This was 2010. I was diagnosed with depression. But at first they didn't think it was really depression because I was a college student. I had wonky hours, in a wonky schedule, so they thought it was that, and then they did some paperwork test thing that said I had depression. So they gave me medication for that, and it still went downhill fast. By the spring break of 2011, they called me into the administration building and was like, we think you have some underlying mental issues that need to be dealt with. It's in your best interest if you deal with them. I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? They didn't even tell me what it meant. I'm like, hello? If they had waited till after spring break, they would have gotten all the answers they needed, because I was going to see someone back home. But nope. A criminal justice professor who moved to the administration building gave a mental health diagnosis, or mental health advice. Pretty sure they're not supposed to do that. But anyway, I left, and then I went to see my first therapist April 2011, and then I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, depression, social anxiety, bipolar depression, manic depression, manic depressive, manic depression disorder, one of the two. Don't remember what it was called exactly, but I was on medication for that, and I saw that guy for a couple of years. When he said we needed an alternative form of treatment, and he suggested electroshock therapy, I'm like, nope, bye! I told my aunt that, and she was like, no, we'll find someone else. That's a little too far. So we found the place I'm currently at, and I sort of like it. I mean, it's different, but I don't really have that big of a support system right now. But at the new place, they diagnosed me with manic depressive disorder, bipolar depression, pretty much the similar diagnosis. And that was that. I've been seeing them for a couple of years, since 2013. And when my depression gets really bad, there are days where I will just lay in bed, not want to do anything, not want to move, not want to eat, not want to be a human. And there were times it would last 4 or 5 days. Like, my aunt had to force me out of my room when I was living with her because it got so bad. And then there are days when I'm up, active, running around, running all these errands, doing whatever. No problem. It was kind of funny. Back when I was still at college, there was one day where I was, like, up on the bipolar scale, and I was really excited that it was a really nice, warm day. Normally, I didn't care about much at that college. Like, I didn't really like it there. The reason I even applied there was because some stupid teenage drama that I was having in high school, and I wanted to get as far away from it as possible. But, and then after I applied for financial aid, got approved, wrote the essay, taken the entrance exam, the drama cleared itself up. And I still foolishly went. The first night at the college, the first couple nights I broke down. I called home saying, I don't want to be here, I want to go home. My father was like, you can come home. I'm like, that's great, when can you pick me up? Didn't mean it like that. Yeah. So, that was fun. Then, when I tried to, get him to mail me something, he was like, I can't do it. And I was like, why? I'm on the moving truck. He up and left with his sister-in-law to Georgia. Yeah. Real nice. So I was stuck up here at my college with nowhere to go. Friend took me home for spring break, but took me back. But after that, it was like, and then more drama happened. The summer of 2010 was literally the worst summer of my life. I literally went weeks. Yeah, I got done in May, and all pretty much up until my friend's graduation in June. I pretty much stayed in bed, didn't do anything. My friends at first forced me out. Then someone turned them against me, and they started avoiding me, and it got worse, and then it was my friend's mom who had to force me out of my room, force me to be human, because I was waiting for my so-called friends to leave and go hang out wherever before I went downstairs and did anything. And another friend stayed while they all went out, you know, to keep me company, because at a point they all... But even after a point, that friend got turned against me, and then I was pretty much alone in that house. I mean, my friend's mom was still on my side because she thought everything they were putting me through was bullshit. She even said, and I quote, "What you guys are doing to him is complete and utter bullshit. With all the stuff he's ever done for you, you're just gonna treat him like this? No wonder he doesn't want to fucking come out of his room. He feels more like a prisoner than a friend." Because they had put me in the smallest room, and they said they would have the room prepared for me before I got there. The room wasn't prepared for me, first off. I had to move stuff around and make a path to the bed. They terrorized my cat, because she would never, when she was alive, she would never pee on the floor, no matter what. She would always go to her litter pan, but they literally scared the piss out of her when my friend's mom was like, "Look, you need to go out, go hang out with some other friends." I don't know what they did, but they picked a good time when his mother was taking a nap. I came home and the floor was wet, and I'm like, I went across to her, I'm like, "What happened?" She was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "My cat peed on the floor. She never does that." And his mom went down and was like, "Did you," not like accusing, but was like, "Do you guys know what happened to his cat by any chance? He said she had an accident on the floor, and she doesn't do that unless she's really, really, really scared." And they're like, "No, maybe the dog scared her?" She didn't believe him, but she was like, "Okay, that does make sense." He said she's not used to really any other animals. She was like, "I know those fuckers did something. They're just not gonna admit it." So at that point, then I refused to leave the house because I was scared for my cat. My cat knew something was up, because she would normally just walk around, explore, have fun, but she didn't leave my side, and she would, when I was forced to leave my room, she would break open the door, even though it wasn't that easy to break open, because they didn't even bother to put a proper door knob on it, and she would come looking for me. One time, my friends were being friendly, and we were downstairs playing games, and my cat came down the stairs looking for me, like, we were like, one of my other friends was like, "What is your cat doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What are you doing over there?" Like, she got really courageous. She was just a, you know, one-person cat. No, two people, because it was my mom, but she was very sheltered. She stayed indoors. She didn't really associate with any animals till I went to college. Didn't even associate with them then. So the fact that she took the risk coming out, I mean, she had her claws, so she could have, and the dog could have beaten the dog up. The dog was old anyway. But I took her in my arms. She was shaking, because, you know, she's used to small areas, and I took her back into the room. I was like, "Look, everything's fine. I'll be back up later. Please stay in here. You'll be safe." She sort of listened, and then when I went back upstairs later, she waited for me to get on the bed, and she ran right up to me. Then I was talking to my aunt at the time. I was telling her everything was going on. She was like, okay, tell your friends that you're going to... At first it was, I'm going to take you out to lunch for your birthday. And I messaged her saying, I can't do that. They've fucked with my cat. I know they did. She was like, okay, I'm getting you out of there. Everything you told me, that this is the last straw. Tell your friends that you're going to be staying with me, because it'll be easier to get you to college, back to college, if you're at my house, and so I won't have to take a trip down to get you and then bring you up. And I was like, okay, and they were like, oh, really? That's too bad. It was so much fun having you around. And I'm thinking, by the amount of manure you guys are throwing, you could fertilize half of the planet. So the day came where my aunt got me. That was actually the happiest day of the summer for me, because I wasn't going to feel like a prisoner. And then we were going to see my uncle who was in the hospital, but we stopped to get something to eat first. I got a text from my friends, that now they're ex-friends, Mom saying, what the fuck did you do to this bedroom? I was like, first off, I didn't do anything. It was pretty much like that when I got there. The only difference is I had to sweep up some cat litter. Other than that, that room was a mess before I got there, and I lived in it. And she was blah, 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 blah. Honestly, I think she was high because she was a pill popper, and she smoked pot. And I just lost any hope of getting this one video monetized. Not that I was going to monetize it anyway, but still. That was the end of that. So, but I wasn't depressed when I found out about that. It was more, I was happy because part of me was glad it was over. And then a couple years down the road, this friend got arrested for rape 1. A mutual friend went to visit and asked them to get a hold of me, get me a letter. He wanted my address. I was like, my aunt doesn't think that's a good idea. If he wants, he can send a letter to you. Then you send it to me. And I will write back, send the letter to you, and then he didn't bother. But when he had gotten out, the hovering began. He messaged me on Facebook and was like, blah, 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 blah. Do you have an iPod? I'm like, what happened to the one that disappeared at your house, which I know they stole? They're like, he was like, oh, we never found it. I'm like, well, I don't have an iPod. I haven't needed an iPod because I've got my iPad. He was like, oh, cool. Can you give me the money for an iPod? And I was like, what the fuck? And then I just snapped. I told him off, like, what the fuck? I know you were just fucking using me all these years. Why the fuck would you come out of not talking to me for years and all of a fucking sudden ask me for money like you used to? And he bitched and whined and moaned and pissed and whatever, and blocked me. After it was over, I just started laughing. Like, I just started laughing, like, uncontrollably. I went downstairs to get a drink because I was laughing so much. My aunt was like, what's going on? I'm like, I finally did it. I finally can move on with my life. I told that little Torborowad off. And she's like, you didn't. And I was like, I did. No, I ran back up, got my iPad, showed her the messages, and she was like, good for you. I haven't heard from them since. Seen a picture. They got fat and ugly. But now, you know, I've moved on from that, obviously. But I still have random moments where I just remember we had so many good times together, all of us, and then that makes me depressed. I sometimes have trouble moving on. I sometimes have problems because I cling to the past, and that makes my depression worse. I kind of think that's why I started this series, to, like, help get the depression out, because I can freely talk and not worry.